Good afternoon. We are going on the record at 12:59 p.m. on October 19th, 2022. This is Media Unit 1 of the video recorded deposition of Gurgel Camacho, taken in the matter of Clay Kalman v. JetBlue Airways Corporation, filed in the United States District Court, Middle District of Florida, Orlando Division. Case number 621CV01081. This deposition is being conducted remotely using virtual technology. My name is Curtis Rodzinski, representing Veritext, and I'm the videographer. The court reporter is Vicky Humphreys, also with Veritext. Will counsel please identify yourselves and state whom you represent?
Yes, for the plaintiff, Lee Seaham of the law firm Seaham, Meltson Peterson, White Plains, New York.
For the defendant, JetBlue Airways Corporation, Lillian Moon of the law firm Ackerman LLP in the Orlando office.
Thank you. Will the court reporter please swear in the witness?
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give here today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Ms. Camacho. My name is Lee Seaham. I'm with the law firm of Seaham, Meltson Peterson. We represent Mr. Clay Coleman in this lawsuit. And today I'm going to be asking you questions which you will be responding to under oath concerning the facts underlying that litigation. Do you understand that?
Yes.
If you do not understand any of my questions, please let me know so that I can rephrase or repeat the question for you. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Do you understand that the deposition today is going to be transcribed by the court reporter and that everything you say here today will be recorded?
Yes.
And I'm going to ask you to please speak slowly and clearly so that the court reporter can take down what you say. Do you understand that?
Yes.
And do you understand that your testimony today is given under oath as if you were in a court of law?
Yes, correct.
Now, all of your answers to my questions must be given verbally. You cannot respond by nodding your head or shrugging your shoulders, since the court reporter cannot take down nonverbal answers. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay. One of the purposes of this deposition is for our side to determine your knowledge of certain facts and events. Do you understand that?
Yes.
And if you subsequently testify in a different manner before a court, we will use this deposition to impeach your testimony. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay. If you don't know an answer to a question, you should say that you don't know. I do not expect you to guess or speculate. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever testified in court before?
Yes.
Okay. On what occasion was that? What was the name of the case?
It was a case with JetBlue. And it was support center crew member.
It was what?
A support center crew member.
Support center crew member.
Mm-hmm.
What was the name of that support member crew member? Support center crew member.
Oh my God, I do not recall. He was in our marketing team.
How long ago was this case?
Probably, well, that case probably was about 6 years ago.
Do you know what court it was held in?
It was in Puerto Rico, in San Juan. It was a San Juan crew member.
Okay. Was that do you know whether it was a federal court or state court?
It was a state court.
Is that the only case that you've ever testified in?
That is correct.
Okay. Have you ever testified in an arbitration?
No.
Have you ever been a party to a litigation?
No.
Okay. Have you ever declared bankruptcy?
No.
Okay. Now, do you understand that you have been sworn to tell the truth and that if you fail to do so, there could be adverse consequences?
Correct.
Okay. Are you taking any medication or other drugs that might impair your ability to testify today?
No.
Are you suffering from any kind of illness that might affect your ability to testify today?
No.
Do you understand everything that I've said up until now?
Yes.
Could you please state your full legal name?
Grisel Camacho.
No middle name?
No middle name.
And have you ever had a different legal name?
Other than my married name,
Okay, so what's your married name?
it was Gutierrez.
Oh, okay. So your full name was Grisel, was it Camacho de Gutierrez, or what was your name before?
It was Grisel Gutierrez.
Okay. And Grisel Camacho is your original maiden name?
That is correct.
Okay. So for what span of time did you go by the name Grisel Gutierrez?
For about 7 years.
And can you give me the year range from when to when?
1990 to 1997.
And Gutierrez, would that be Gutierrez?
That is correct.
Now, did you review any documents to prepare for your deposition today?
Yes.
Okay, what did you review?
I reviewed the documents given by the attorney.
Okay. And what can you identify what documents those were?
Yeah, well, they're the same ones that I have printed out. So
Okay. Yeah, to the best of your recollection, what documents were they?
the deposition, the answers to the deposition, a declaration.
Was that your declaration?
Correct, my declaration that I had to,
And what else?
that I had to sign.
Okay. Okay. Do you recall what any other documents?
Not that I recall.
Okay. And what was do you recall what the purpose was of the declaration that you signed?
Just to review some items.
Now, would you agree that the purpose of the declaration was to establish that the decision to terminate Mr. Coleman was made by individuals in New York? Excuse me, in Florida?
Yeah, that was part of it.
Hmm.
I don't recall it entirely, but that.
Okay. What is your date of birth?
December 24, 1967.
Oh, no. That means you didn't get as many presents as everybody else.
No, I got them twice as much.
Okay. And where were you born?
In New York City.
New York City. And how are you now living in Orlando, Florida?
Correct.
Okay. And how long have you lived there?
About 13 years.
And could you describe your educational background?
Studied and I got my bachelor's in New York, Bachelor's of Science, and I have an MBA.
Where did you get your Bachelor of Science?
You mean university?
Yeah, which college?
City College of New York.
City College. And where did you get your MBA?
From University of Phoenix.
And what were the years of that? What your BS was in what year? Did you receive?
I do not recall. Probably it ended the BS in probably 1989.
Yeah. And your MBA?
Probably around 2010.
Well, what is your current position with JetBlue?
I am the regional manager for our crew relations team.
When were you first hired at JetBlue?
I was hired in 2011.
Okay. What position did you hire? What was your original position?
It was as a business partner. The position was to sell SIM time to our business partners. So it was kind of a sales position.
Okay. A sales position, but I didn't hear the title. What was the title?
I do not recall the title that when I first started, but it was with business partners, but I don't have the exact title.
It was, I didn't catch the answer. It was with business partners?
Correct.
Oh.
We would meet with business partners and sell time, simulator time.
I see. And how long did you hold that position?
For, I think it was about a year.
And then what position did you hold after that?
Then I went to the HR department as a field generalist.
And how long did you hold that position?
Probably about 6 years.
And after, so more or less in 2018, you changed positions?
Yes.
What was your new
18,
position?
18, 17, something like that.
Okay. And what was your new position?
Then I changed to the regional manager.
Nice. And what were your responsibilities as a regional manager?
So I ensure that we work with our clients in the upholding our policy and being consistent.
And who were your clients?
For the regional manager, or what I support, it'll be Orlando based crew members in the airport and in the JetBlue University. Plus, I also support a few states.
You support what?
A few stations.
Oh, stations. Okay.
Yeah.
And what were you, in terms of when you refer to clients, you're talking about
Our internal clients.
your internal clients.
Correct.
Okay. All right. And were you, in terms of your internal clients, were they focused on particular job classifications? Was it mostly have to do with flight attendants, your work?
No, once we, the way we're structured, we're assigned an airport. So it'll be all the crew members in that airport.
Okay. So pilots and flight attendants?
Pilots, flight attendant, ground operations, airport operations, coordinators, tech ops.
Okay. So you dealt with aircraft mechanics as well?
Correct.
Now, as the regional manager, to whom did you report?
At that time, it was to Robin King, who was the director.
She was the director in 2000. So I'm interested in the period 2018 to 2020.
Correct.
So during that period, Robin King was the person to whom you reported?
Yes, that is correct.
And did you have any individuals who reported to you?
Yes.
So who would they be during that period?
I had 3 individuals that reported to me.
Okay, who were they?
Elizabeth Rodriguez, Millie Gutierrez, and Wanda Garcia.
Okay. And you're familiar with the name Juan Ramos in terms of Orlando operation?
Yes.
What position did he hold in 2018 to 2020?
He was the base manager for Orlando Airport for in-flight.
Okay. So it was your position higher than his or below his or some kind of lateral relationship?
It's more of a lateral.
Do you know in 2018 to 2020, do you know who the team leader for Mr. Clay Coleman was?
I do not recall the team leader for Clay Coleman specifically.
Correct.
No, yeah, no.
Okay. Well, how many team leaders were there in Orlando at that time for flight attendants?
Oh, I don't recall, but usually there are over 5 team leaders. And I will work with any of them that are available.
Prior to 2020, did you have any discussions with anyone concerning Mr. Clay Coleman's performance as a flight attendant?
No,
Did you were you familiar in 2020? Were you familiar with any negative appraisals or communications concerning his performance as a flight attendant?
no,
In your position as the regional manager, are you responsible for being knowledgeable of the company's rules of conduct as they apply to flight attendants?
yes, that is correct.
Okay. And it was a part of your responsibility to monitor compliance with those rules?
Yes,
Okay. And where necessary to enforce those rules as well? Is that
correct. Make recommendations.
and it was part of your general function from 2018 to 2020 to receive reports of misconduct and non-compliance with the rules of conduct?
Yes,
Have you ever been disciplined by JetBlue?
no,
Was it part of your job as a regional manager to be familiar with flight attendant duties?
yes,
So are you familiar with the term federal aviation regulations?
yes,
Okay. Are you familiar with the term FARs?
yes,
Are you familiar with the regulatory reference 14 CFR Part 121?
no, I would have to look at the document, but no,
Okay. Would you agree with me that JetBlue is a Part 121 carrier?
yes,
Yes? Okay. Now, do you know, or would you agree with me that under JetBlue policy and the FARs, that flight attendant duties include ensuring cabin safety?
yes,
Okay. And that responsibility to ensure cabin safety on the part of flight attendants would include cabin safety both in the air and on the ground, correct? If you don't know, you can say you don't know.
no, I'm not aware.
Okay. Are you knowledgeable of FAA staffing requirements as they relate to flight attendants on aircraft?
Not the detail, no.
Okay. But are you knowledgeable of the fact that the FAA does require minimum staffing of flight attendants on an aircraft?
Correct, there's a minimum requirement.
Okay. Would you agree that under the FARs and JetBlue policy that flight attendants must have airplane type specific knowledge and skill requirements?
Yes,
Okay. And flight attendants are responsible for taking action during a wide range of emergencies, correct?
correct,
Flight attendants may be required to administer first aid, correct?
correct,
And flight attendants are required to conduct aircraft evacuations when necessary, correct?
correct,
And flight attendants are required to respond to in-flight fires if they occur, correct?
correct,
Yeah. And flight attendants are required to manage medical emergencies, correct?
correct,
And flight attendants are required to handle passengers who threaten the safety of other passengers, correct?
correct,
And they are also required to manage passengers who are unruly or disruptive, correct?
correct,
And flight attendants must also be prepared under the FARs and JetBlue policy to respond to situations that could threaten passenger safety, correct?
Correct.
And that would include turbulent air, for example, correct?
Correct.
And airplane decompression, correct?
Correct.
And flight attendants must know the location of emergency exits, fire extinguishers, and first aid kits, correct?
Yes.
And they're required under the JetBlue policy and the FARs to know how to operate flotation devices, oxygen masks, and emergency slides.
Yes.
And the flight attendants are required under JetBlue policy and the FARs to check emergency equipment before the flight, correct?
Correct.
And flight attendants are required under JetBlue policy and the FARs to assess and verify the suitability of passengers that occupy exit row seating, correct?
Correct.
And flight attendants are required under the FARs and JetBlue policy to brief passengers on safety equipment, evacuation, and crash landing procedures, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And under JetBlue policy and the FARs, flight attendants must ensure compliance with applicable safety regulations, correct?
Correct.
Okay, would you agree that JetBlue flight attendants perform critical safety sensitive functions?
Yes, and the definition that you expressed, yes.
Yeah. In fact, would you agree the FAA has designated the flight attendant position as a safety sensitive position?
Yes, I believe so, in conjunction with the pilots.
Mm-hmm. Is the flight attendant position a stressful job?
I guess it could be.
Yeah. What are the rules at JetBlue for flight attendants as they relate to the consumption of alcohol?
That they should not consume alcohol while on duty or prior to their established, I guess, show time. And I think there's a time frame. I don't know if it's 8 hours or 10 hours prior.
Now, JetBlue has a random testing program for drugs and alcohol that applies to flight attendants, correct?
That is correct.
And also flight attendants can be tested on the basis of reasonable cause for drugs or alcohol, correct?
Correct. Reasonable suspicion.
Okay. Are you, do you know what the blood alcohol level that would be considered a positive under JetBlue policy?
I do not know that on the top of my head, no.
Have you ever received reports of flight attendants not complying with alcohol consumption rules?
Not my team specifically, no.
Are flight attendants permitted to drink alcohol off duty during extended trips?
Yes, I guess if it does not interfere with the time that they cannot ingest alcohol, yes.
So in other words, if a flight attendant has a layover at a hotel, he or she could have some drinks in the evening if their flight was not until 8 o'clock the next morning.
Correct, as long as they meet that threshold of whatever hours they are, 8 or 10 hours, which I don't recall.
And in terms of off-hour consumption, is there any limitation on how many drinks they can have, so long as it's 8 hours prior to the flight?
No.
Okay. Have you ever? Okay. Would you agree with me that it is important for a flight attendant to be in good mental health in order to discharge his or her duties?
Yes, I would agree with that.
Okay. And if JetBlue has knowledge of a flight attendant who is suffering from a mental health issue, would it be JetBlue's policy to remove that flight attendant from duty until the issue can be addressed?
Correct.
Okay. Are And would it be the same policy at JetBlue with in terms of substance abuse problems, that if there's a known drug or alcohol problem for a flight attendant, that flight attendant should be removed from duty until that drug or alcohol problem is properly addressed?
Well, as long as it's addressed by the crew member before they are tested positive.
Okay, yeah, so putting that to one side, a positive test, if it comes to the attention of JetBlue management that the flight attendant has a drug or alcohol drinking problem, JetBlue would remove that flight attendant from duty and direct them to seek some help before restoring them to duty, correct?
Correct. There is a program. Yes, that is correct.
And our managers, if they have reports that a flight attendant has drug or alcohol issues, are managers required to intervene and investigate that issue?
Yes, so they are aware. They would look into the issue, bring it forward.
And if there are reports of a drug or alcohol drinking problem, would it be JetBlue policy to remove that flight attendant from duty immediately until the reports can be investigated?
Yeah, depending on the situation, that might be a possibility. Yes.
Well, if
they self-identified.
Or if there are reports from, let's say there are reports from fellow flight attendants that a crew member has a drinking problem, would JetBlue allow that flight attendant to continue performing in her duties while they investigated, or would they remove that flight attendant from duty during the investigatory period?
There is a possibility that we'll remove during the investigatory.
Well, is it possible? But if you were to receive a report saying a specific flight attendant has a drinking problem from a coworker, would you continue to let that flight attendant perform safety sensitive duties without first completing an investigation of that allegation?
No, we will start or conduct an investigation based on the concerns that are brought forward, and we would remove if necessary. Yes. Again, we have to look into the information before we take any decisions also.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever received any information in the course of your work that indicated that a flight attendant had a mental health or substance abuse issue?
Yes.
Can you describe those circumstances?
In terms, well.
Yeah. How many well, let me ask. How many instances? How many instances of have you had of receiving reports concerning a flight attendant who had a mental health or substance abuse issue?
That
Sorry?
I could recall right now, probably one.
Just one?
That I could recall. Yeah, one.
Okay. Can please describe the circumstances related to that situation?
There were concerns on the crew members' behavior on board, and they were said the program we have is a fit for duty.
Okay. What? Please describe the behavior that was reported to you.
Not addressing our customers correctly, and not performing her duties in terms of the service that was required on board.
How did she address the customers?
It was the in-flight are supposed to go with a cart offering, I guess, the snacks and drinks.
Right.
And she would do random comments in terms of the snacks and drinks.
Well, the pejorative comments, negative comments about the snacks and drinks?
Not to do with the snacks and drinks.
So what exactly was she saying?
I do not recall. It wasn't anything inappropriate in terms of bad words or anything like that. It was just more of her not providing the appropriate snacks and drinks that were requested.
And were you responsible for investigating this issue?
Yes, my team was.
Was your was this flight attendant removed from duty for any period of time?
Yes.
So she was removed from duty pending the completion of the investigation?
Correct.
Okay. And how long did the investigation last in terms of days?
It was more than days. I don't recall exactly, but it was more than days because the investigation took longer in that case. I just do not recall the exact time frame.
During the pendency of the investigation, was the flight attendant allowed to return to her flight duties?
No.
And at the end of the investigation, what was determined?
At this point, it was a separation.
Do you have responsibilities as hold on, I'm forgetting your job title, regional manager? Do you have responsibilities for investigating suspected violations of the rules of conduct at JetBlue?
Yes.
And can you describe JetBlue's investigatory process?
So usually we'll get a concern, either a customer or crew member. And once we receive that, we will gather the information in terms of any witnesses, any documentation or video, and look into all the information and gather statements and then review and decide on the appropriate action.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll review it, and this is in conjunction with the leadership.
Okay. And who, in terms of the flight attendant work group, who decides what the appropriate action is?
It will be the direct leader. So in this case, it will be base managers.
Now, are you familiar with the concept of progressive discipline?
Correct. Progressive guidance.
Okay. And what do you understand that? And progressive guidance, is that a policy that JetBlue adheres to?
Correct. That's our disciplinary coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a documentation where we have a coaching with the crew member.
And is, in terms of progressive guidance, is the idea that a crew member, if they are engaged in misconduct, will generally be given a warning and an opportunity to mend their ways and improve their performance? It
will depend on the situation. So it's not a step by step necessarily, depending on the seriousness determined. It could go from an initial guidance all the way to separation. It doesn't have to go A, B, and C in that order.
So, and during the investigation, it's JetBlue policy that sometimes an employee will be suspended from flight duties, or a flight attendant will be suspended from flight duties during the investigation, correct?
Correct.
And where the issue being investigated is a terminable offense, an offense for which someone would ordinarily be terminated, does JetBlue suspend that individual from flight operations?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
So let me back up and make sure we're using the same terms. So usually you investigate when there are some allegations of misconduct, correct?
Correct.
And sometimes those allegations are of a nature so that if you confirm the truth of the allegation, that person will be terminated, correct?
Correct. If the investigation reveals that is separation will occur.
Okay. And what's the term you use? A separational offense?
Yes, it's separation, termination, separation.
Okay. So when JetBlue is investigating an alleged offense that would be grounds for separation, is JetBlue policy to suspend that employee until the investigation is completed?
Yes, we would usually suspend.
Okay. And that suspension would continue until the investigation is completed, correct?
Correct.
Now, do you know when Mr. Coleman was hired as a flight attendant by JetBlue?
I do not know the exact time frame now.
Would you agree that he worked for JetBlue for a number of years prior to his termination?
Yes, I believe so.
And he was terminated on March 16th, 2020, correct?
Correct.
And had he ever previously been disciplined, to your knowledge?
I believe there was a previous discipline.
Okay. And do you know what that discipline related to?
If I'm not mistaken, I believe it was related to social media.
Okay. Did you participate in any way in the investigation of that social media issue?
At that time, it was Liz Rodriguez, I believe, that took that on.
Okay, so is the answer no, that you did not have any role in the investigation of that social media issue?
Yeah, I do not think so, because I have to see the years, because I'm not sure if Liz reported to me at that time.
Did do you recall having any input? So putting aside the investigation, do you recall having any input in the discipline administered to Mr. Coleman as a result of the social media issue?
No, I don't recall being part of that.
You're familiar with the name Wanda Garcia?
Yes.
And does she work within? Does she work in Orlando for JetBlue?
Correct.
What was her position from 2018 to 2020?
I'm sorry.
What was her position? What was her position in 2020?
She was a field generalist for crew relations.
And did she report to you during that period?
That is correct, yes.
You say you received documents. Did you receive a package of documents that began with an email from Juan Ramos dated January 7th, 2020?
Yes.
If you could pull that out. And let me know when you have it available.
I haven't.
Okay. And then I'm going to ask you to turn to page. You'll see in the bottom right-hand corner there are page numbers. The first one being 906.
Okay.
Okay. And I'm going to ask you to turn to page 920. Well, while you're doing that, are you aware that Ms. Wanda Garcia has already testified before us in this matter, that she was deposed?
Yes.
Okay. Now I'm looking at this document that's titled Crew Relations Separation Review. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay, and it's 2 pages, correct?
Yes.
And it states that it was completed by Wanda Garcia on February 27th, 2020, correct?
Correct.
And what's the purpose of a crew relations separation review?
This will be our documentation or summary of the case that was brought up and that we investigated. So this is a summary that will go for approval.
And Ms. Wanda Garcia sent this report to you, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And if you look in the middle of the first page, there's a list of supporting documentation.
Correct.
And the last item, item 8, is initial progressive guidance dated June 13, 2018. Do you see that?
Okay. Yes.
But so would you agree with me that that the social media issue in 2018 was a contributing factor in terms of the decision to separate Mr. Coleman?
Correct. It was included in the separation packet.
Well, the purpose of including it as a reference is as an indication that JetBlue is basing its decision in part on that event. Is that correct?
Well, we would include any documentation or progressive guidance that the crew member had.
Mhm.
So we would include anything, even if it was dependability or something else.
Okay.
But yes, it's in the packet.
Okay. Well, was it? And I may have asked you, so I apologize. Had you you had not heard anything negative about Mr. Coleman prior to 2020, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you had no prior discussions with Mr. Coleman prior to 2020?
No, I had not.
Prior to 2020, did you have any reason to suspect Mr. Coleman of having a substance abuse problem?
No.
Did you ever receive a report from anyone prior to 2020 suggesting that Mr. Coleman had a substance abuse issue?
No.
Counsel, I'm sorry for the interruption. I need a moment for equipment.
Yeah, that's fine. Why don't we take a 5-minute break, and anyone who needs to use the restroom can do that.
Thank you.
We'll come back at 10. Did you miss any of the testimony, or are we good?
No, I warned you before we got to that. I didn't.
Thank you very much. All right, so we'll come back in 6 minutes.
Thank you.
This marks the end of immediate unit number 1. Going off record, time is 1:45 p.m. 1:44, pardon me.